I'm Tony, 29 years old, a single man. Currently, I work as a paralegal at a law firm opened by a senior from my college days. He helped me when I was struggling to find employment. The struggle wasn't anyone's fault. I had my own doubts about entering society. I wasn't prepared or in the right mindset. I was aware of this. My current employer and I were in the same club in college. I think I could say I'll go lightly because he invited me to the office lightly. The sound I hate the most, the buzzing, begins. It's the sound of my alarm clock. It's not a cell phone alarm because I can't wake up with that. I grope to stop the alarm bell. My eyes are still closed. A loud thud sounds from the ceiling. Probably, the resident above is hitting the floor, annoyed by the alarm sound. This rundown apartment has 3 stories and thin walls. Everyone's living noises are heard. Usually, for normal living noises, we mutually tolerate, without much complaint. But there are some complaints about noise in the morning or late at night. I finally open my eyes, apologize to the ceiling and get up. This is my morning routine. I live in a 50-year-old rundown apartment. I've been living here since my student days. I earn decently, so many advise me to move, but the option to move doesn't exist for me, a true lazy person. To me, this apartment is attractive enough. While getting ready for work, my BGM comes from the next room. A clear, beautiful voice. In the day it blooms, at night it sleeps, the mimosa tree, only you look at, even the playing fool should look. Through the thin walls of the apartment, it sounds like a mysterious spell to me. Once, I listened carefully and looked up what was being said. It was a poem from the Manyoshu. Every morning, the neighbor sings several poems with a chanting tone. Listening to it while drinking coffee was a blissful time for me. It's one of the reasons I don't move from this rundown apartment. I've been fascinated by her enchanting voice for almost 2 years. One day, after working late, I stopped by a convenience store near the apartment. I usually cook for myself, but today I was too tired. I didn't have the energy to cook. I was excited to enjoy convenience store food, which I rarely buy. While contemplating which one to choose, a young woman rushed in from the entrance. Her shoulder-length straight hair is disheveled due to her hurried running. "Huh, is that you, Alice?" As I call out to her, she turns around in surprise. Sure enough, the person who hurriedly ran in was my neighbor from the rundown apartment, Alice. It seems she has run from the station because she is breathing heavily. Alice briefly glances outside the convenience store window and suddenly wraps her arm around mine. "I'm sorry, did I make you wait?" She looks up at me with upturned eyes as she says this. I'm in a mini panic, wondering what is happening to me. Because the woman I admire has her arm wrapped around mine. It's unavoidable to be in a state of confusion. "I'm sorry, can you pretend to be my boyfriend?" She pleads in a soft voice to the flustered me. It seems like there is some reason. At that moment, the sound of the convenience store's automatic door opening can be heard. She seems to be startled by the sound, her shoulders shaking. I inadvertently glance at the entrance. A young man, looking like a college student, is glaring this way. Her body starts to shiver in small increments. It seems she has run away from that man. I seem to have been followed. Alice says only that and closes her mouth. She seems unable to speak from fear. There is no choice but to help her here. "What's the matter? You're clingy today." I say this while looking into her face, making sure the guy can hear. And I whisper in a low voice, "You are safe." Alice seems to relax a bit at my reaction. She still looks pale, but she smiles back. "Another convenience store dinner? That's no good. Come to my place, I'll make something for you tonight." I savor her words. Even playing the role of a fake boyfriend is fine. To think the day would come when I would hear such words from her. I believe there must be a God in this world. I'm grateful. We exit the convenience store with our arms linked. We pass by the man when exiting, but he didn't try to stop us. However, he keeps following us. Ellis and I continue to pretend to be a couple on the way back, keeping our conversation going. We return to the apartment, looking like a loving couple. I'm wondering what to do next. Then Alice invites me into her room, saying, "Please come in." I decide to accept her invitation. The man doesn't enter the apartment premises but seems to be glaring at us near the entrance. As soon as we enter the room, Alice separates from me and apologizes. "I'm really sorry," I think I responded with "it's okay," while savoring the warmth left on my arm by her. I'm a bit nervous and can't remember. Peeping outside, that man is still in front of the apartment. It seems I can't go back to my room immediately. It seems better to wait a bit. Is it okay if I stay here? I had no intention of overstaying, but under these circumstances, it can't be helped. Of course, I'm really sorry to take up your precious time. Alice, saying it's the least she can do to apologize, serves me homemade food. Surrounded by books, her room feels mysteriously comfortable. Excited, I eye dishes like the terrine she prepared last night, thinking about having wine, quiche, and sautéed chicken, dishes that would be served in a restaurant. I love to eat. In no time, my stomach is also won over by Alice. According to what I heard while dining, that guy was a graduate student at the private university where Alice works. Alice is a librarian at the private university. Recently, she was confessed to by that guy, and when she politely declined, she found herself in the current situation. "Did I decline badly?" Alice says in a small voice while sipping her wine. "No matter how you reject, some guys are just clingy. You did nothing wrong, Alice." Alice opened her eyes wide, seeming surprised at my somewhat bold statement. Then she smiled softly and thanked me. I was so happy, so very happy. I almost felt thankful to the clingy guy. After all, I'm dining on homemade food and wine in the room of the woman I've always admired. Thank you for such a dreamlike time. I think I was a bit high-spirited. Maybe the alcohol was contributing. The guy left from in front of the apartment, and I returned to my room across the date line. We've exchanged contact information and told each other to get in touch immediately if something happens. Most importantly, in this shabby apartment, you can hear everything. I'll notice immediately if something happens to her. I felt thankful even to the shabby apartment. I feel like I can sing well today. Maybe it's the alcohol, but my throat feels good. While filling the bathtub, I hummed and muttered so. The morning after a joyous time. Hell had broken loose in front of my room. Food waste was scattered everywhere, and on top of it was a piece of note. It seems to be the handiwork of the man from last night. The note in messy handwriting read, "Keep your hands off Alice." The pressure of the writing was immense, allowing me to sense the man's frustration and anger from his strokes. I thought maybe I provoked him a bit too much. I opened the door with a click, and Alice also showed her face. Seeing the scattered food waste, she looked genuinely sorry. She apologized "I'm really sorry" many times, making me feel a bit awkward. Moreover, she didn't do this. "Please don't worry about it, you didn't do this, Alice." I tried to cheer her up with a smile and said so. More than that, I was worried that something might have happened to her. "Alice, are you okay? Did anything happen to you?" At my words, Alice checked the front of her entrance. It seemed to be okay. "Seems fine. Nothing seems to be out of place." "What about the mailbox? Is there anything strange in it?" With a bit of fear, Alice checked her mailbox. And then, she let out a short scream. "Eek. What happened? I quickly moved to her side. There was a photograph inside the mailbox. Carefully, I took it out and checked it. This guy. There was a man in the photo wearing a black hoodie, hood up, making a peace sign. The fact that he's completely expressionless makes it unsettling. Oh, it's him. He followed me yesterday. The fear has turned Alice's face pale. The uncertainty of his intentions adds an extra layer of creepiness. I keep reassuring her, saying it's all right. Once she's somewhat calmed down, I hand her my business card. She receives it with both hands politely. The business card reads law firm. You work at a law firm. I become a bit bashful to her surprised voice and clarify, I'm a paralegal, so not a lawyer. It's a firm my senior started. I think we could assist you, Alice. Would you consider coming in for a consultation? Ideally, returning to her parents' house would be the safest, but she seems to have work obligations making it difficult to leave. I want to confidently say she'll be fine with me around, but it's not like I'm physically strong. Reliance on legal power and the police seems the best choice here. Also, I really didn't want to suggest this, but since you live alone, it might be good to consider moving to a more secure place given the circumstances. It's a rickety apartment with lax security. Anything can happen, and it wouldn't be surprising. Truth be told, it would be sad if Alice moves out. I want to hear her beautiful voice reading aloud every morning. But now, Alice's safety is the priority. Alice became silent at my words. Safety comes first. Alice shook her head quietly to my words. I'm not considering moving. Sure, it's a rundown apartment, but I like this apartment. I can't force her if she says so. I wonder what's good about this dilapidated apartment. I replied, is that so? While tilting my head. We went together to a law firm and, after receiving various advice, decided to also visit the police station. The boss told me to go with her to the police station, thinking she would feel lonely by herself, so Alice and I went to consult at the police station side by side. Although it's due to the circumstances, I'm happy to have been with her since last night. We consulted at the police station's public safety division and registered in a system where we can report immediately by dialing 911 if something happens. They also promised to increase patrols around the apartment. I'll also contact the landlord and ask to enhance security measures. We were exhausted when we left the police station after completing various procedures. Doing things you're not used to can be doubly tiring, I guess. When we finally finished, we looked at each other's faces and naturally started smiling. My heart raced, imagining how we must look like a couple to those around us. Maybe I was being punished for having such a frivolous thought. Suddenly, that man rushed before our eyes, grabbing Alice's hand and trying to pull her away. Alice let out a short scream. Hey, what do you think you're doing? Let go. I instinctively grabbed the man's arm, and it was surprisingly muscular. His hood is pulled tight, but I can see his eyes gleaming underneath. Stop bothering Alice. Eventually, the man and I ended up in a scuffle. Maybe it's his youth. The man is strong, swinging wildly at me. Caught by the collar, and just when I thought I was in trouble, the man was sent flying backwards. I'm baffled, not knowing what just happened. Of course, I didn't do anything. I was just willing to take a hit for her. Tony, get behind me. Alice said so in a low voice. It seems the guy was blown away because her kick hit, and I'm even more confused. I have a black belt in karate. I think I can probably fight better than you, Tony. Alice glares at the man who has finally gotten up. Her spirit is incredible, and the man steps back for a moment. Don't bother this person ever again. Alice shouted that to the man. The man, seemingly regretful, turns on his heel and runs away. There was a commotion in front of the police station, so several officers ran over to us. We decided to go back inside the police station and report the incident that had just occurred. The man involved has already been identified. From now on, if anything else happens, both the police and lawyers are on Alice's side. Alice seemed calmer today than she did yesterday. Proof of this was that I could hear Alice reading aloud today. When I think of you, my feelings don't change, though they may not show on the outside. I felt relieved from the bottom of my heart when I heard Alice's clear voice. I hope this issue gets resolved soon, and Alice can have her peaceful days back. If only I had more knowledge, I would understand what she's reciting. This morning, more than ever, I felt frustrated. I might be under the illusion that I've gotten closer to her. Leaning against the thin wall, listening to her reading, there was a loud knock on the front door. There's no doorbell here. It's rare for someone to visit on a Saturday morning. Wondering what's going on, I opened the front door. A woman who clearly looks wealthy stands there. She's wearing heavy makeup, but she appears much older than me. "Excuse me, may I ask who you are?" I hesitantly asked the unfamiliar woman. With a condescending attitude, she snorted at me. "You're the one who stole my son's girlfriend, aren't you? Aren't you ashamed as an adult?" Caught off guard by her sudden and baseless accusation, I'm taken aback. The woman in front of me seems utterly furious. Looking closely at her face, I see a resemblance to that man. "Oh, are you that guy's mother?" I unintentionally point and raise my voice. The fierce look in her eyes was identical. DNA is incredible. "Don't call him that guy, Tommy. He's my precious only son. Look, I came here to ask you a favor." With an attitude that's both haughty and humble, she pulls an envelope from her bag. It's about an inch thick. She then hands me the envelope and orders, "Take it." On reflex, I take it and immediately realize what's inside. I quickly hand the envelope back to her. It's filled with stacks of bills. "This should be more than enough for a settlement, right? What's your problem?" Seemingly annoyed at having the envelope returned, she nervously clicks her heels. She clearly didn't expect me to refuse. "Why would I need this? Did you think I was the kind of man to be bribed with money?" Perhaps this woman has been dealing with various issues like this up until now. Her gesture of handing over the envelope seemed practiced. I felt somewhat sad, thinking that she probably had been covering up her son's indiscretions and indulging his whims with money all this time. "If you refuse, I'll report to the police that you resorted to violence against me." Saying so, the woman deliberately bumped her knee against the front door. A dull sound was heard. It is likely bruised by now. "Don't you think it's absurd to want everything to go your way?" I inadvertently raised my voice. Alice, hearing our arguing voices, came out from the entryway. Seeing me glaring at the woman, she quickly seemed to grasp what was happening and came out, putting on her shoes. Are you David's mother?" The man clinging to Alice seems to be called David. David's mother looked a bit surprised at Alice's appearance but quickly regained her composure. Facing Alice again, the woman clearly said, "Please date my son." She kept on talking, saying she would pay any amount of money and would even make donations to the university. I didn't even get a chance to interject. However, when the woman started mentioning me, Alice cut her off. "I understand what you want to say, ma'am. I will not date David. I am willing to overlook it because you're not suitable for our family." What's with that attitude? The woman was getting more and more heated. "Do you think everything can be resolved with money?" Seeing that from his parents, maybe David is under the impression that everything should go his way. At this straight and true statement, the mother had to swallow her words. She couldn't find anything to say in return. "Rather than bringing money to me, please face David and talk to him. I don't think what David really wants is me." The woman seemed to come to her senses at Alice's words. You should talk as a family," Alice told her firmly. In the end, David's mother just left as is. She offered no apology to me, and no thanks to Alice. I really think she's quite rude. I'm so frustrated that I want to fill the bathtub and soak in the hot water. I guess I didn't really have a role to play. Alice, you're strong, aren't you? It's a sincere compliment, but Alice's face clouds over. Did I say something wrong? I start to worry. I'm assertive and can be hands-on. Maybe a bit too dangerous to be a girlfriend, Alice murmurs in a small voice. I didn't expect her to think of herself that way. I hurriedly, completely negate my opinion. There's no way that's true. If it's real, would you consider having me as your boyfriend, not just pretending? I promise I won't make you sad or bore you. I seize the opportunity to promote myself. For a moment, she looks dumbfounded, as if she doesn't understand what I just said. She quickly grasps the meaning and blushes up to her neck. Oh, sorry, that was too sudden, wasn't it? I'm sweating and scratching my head. No, not at all. I've always wanted to talk to you. Hearing your narratives from the bathroom has been a daily joy for me. Now it's my turn to blush at Alice's words. I thought she might be listening, but I never imagined she was looking forward to it. I love singing the narratives my grandfather taught me while soaking in the hot tub. I narrate stories with a rhythm. I know almost all of my favorite performances by heart. Lately, it seems there's been a resurgence of performers in this traditional art. Oh, you could hear it. Yes, I always listened. It was my daily joy, and I was always curious about what would happen next. Alice seemed to worry that showing only her strong-willed side had made me dislike her. So fervently do I yearn for you. Had I known this, I'd rather have admired you from afar. I remembered the poem Alice had recited this morning. Alice's eyes widened in surprise at hearing me recite the poem. What does this poem mean? You recite it quite often, don't you? At my inquiry, Alice blushes even more. And in a soft voice, she explained. It was a love song. It seems to mean, if love is this painful, it would have been better to just admire from afar. It's about you, Tony, Alice said with a soft laugh. She said she had never thought I'm so kind and wonderful. I didn't know how to react to her sweet praise. Through the thin walls of our dilapidated apartment, we were drawn to each other's voices. I also looked forward to hearing Alice's voice every time. I see, so you heard me when I was reading with pleasure. I find her blushing again from the bottom of my heart to be endearing. 3 years later, we stood side by side, deeply moved as we watched our dilapidated apartment being demolished. I really like this apartment. Alice puckered her lips in disappointment. On the ring finger of her left hand shone the ring I gave her. It seems to have reached its limits due to deterioration. It wasn't even earthquake resistant. Indeed, it is sad to see the apartment filled with our memories being demolished. But as long as this apartment existed, our lives would have continued to be separated by its thin walls. Even after getting married, we continued to live in this apartment and were in a sort of commuting marriage, living next to each other. From today, a new life together begins again. I want her to recite various songs next to me, not through the thin walls. I also want her to quickly explain their meanings. I cannot thank enough the apartment that brought us together.